Okay, hello everyone. Welcome along to our live stream and SWOTVAC, hey? SWOTVAC week, it's all happening. Getting to that pointy end of semester. Wow, my white balance is really cool again. What is going on with me looking so blue? Oh, and look at all that dog hair all over me. Well, we all know who to blame for that. So as usual, I think that people have probably forgotten about the live stream. So hello to the one person that's out there, whoever you are. Oh, two people. You guys have got me all to yourself, and you've got Charlie here rolling around and carrying on all to yourself. Feel Charlie, we're live, darling. Yeah, we're live. Feel free to ask me any questions that you want to before everybody else turns up. I will do that thing again where I send out an announcement, and what would be really good would be if I actually sent it out to the right subject. So what are we? We're mind, brain, and behavior 1. And just coming into the announcement section is live right now. Let's see if we can get some people. Hey peeps, live now at, and there is the link. And we will hyperlink that. And there we go. Okay. So as you might have seen on the homepage, we've got our second class of 2019 photo up and running in the banner. Hello, Charlie. Are you being a good boy? You want to say hello to our two friends here with us? Oh, you're such a big fatty. You're such a big fatty, just like me. Oh, we're a couple of big fatties. Yes. So that was really fun to do that photo shoot with everybody, even though it was freezing cold and really windy and rainy, wasn't it? It was fun, and it's nice to see some human faces up there on the banner. Oh, there you go, Charlie. And have that more community feel to the page. So hello, Christopher Carr. Thank you very much for posting. Charlie, why do I think you're up to no good? I feel like I should be letting you out, even though you were out. You've sort of got that I might want to go to the loo behavior going on, don't you? We'll run the gauntlet for the sake of the live stream. Charlie is very cute, isn't he? He's diabolically cute. I just can't be upset with you. You're so cute. So, great question, Christopher. Is it possible there are questions about the SPSS software? Yeah, there is. There might be. That's what I mean. Yes. There may be questions about SPSS. Okay, yes, there is. There is questions about SPSS, but not along the lines of the user interface. I'm not going to ask you, what menu would you go to find standard deviation or something like that. It's more about being able to interpret SPSS output. So, no, we're not eating electric cords. No. If you are familiar with the activities that you did in tutorial classes, and in interpreting the types of output that you can get from SPSS, then you will be well prepared for that component of the quantitative methods exam. I know I'm looking up into space, aren't I? It's because I've split my screen. I've got my MacBook Pro in front of me here, and then I've got a big screen in my window, and it looks a bit funny, doesn't it? So speaking of the research methods exam, or actually let me answer the second part of your question firstly, Chris. Will full credits be given for REP if just online modules were completed and not equal online and not online? Yes. So it's not ideal. I know the credits, the credit. Come here, Charlie. I'm going to hold you and give you love for a moment. The credits are obviously, you know, part of the benefit that you receive for participating in REP. I think the more meaningful benefit is, are you going to face the audience? That's my schnoz. The more meaningful benefit is the experience that you get from research participation, and the breadth of the experience is what we try to support with that splitting of doing face-to-face and online studies. It's really late in the day now, isn't it, with the deadline for REP being this Friday coming up. So I don't expect you to be working miracles, and I'm also you know, mindful that I don't want to impact upon your preparation for exams at this point with REP. So whatever works at this point, whatever gets you across the line. So I hope that helps, Chris. Next, we might talk just a little bit more about the research methods component of the exam, and let's talk. So we've talked about there being some SPSS related questions around output, and that is certainly true, and I reckon you're ready to go down again. I just don't trust you. You look like you want to do a wee, and I don't want it to be on my carpet, but we're live streaming, so I need you to cross your legs. You cross your legs? All right, here we go. So, what did I want to tell you about research methods? There's no calculation required in research methods, so you don't need to bring a calculator. I'm not going to ask you to calculate anything. You'll notice I haven't asked you to manually calculate anything in this entire research methods program. And that's because it's my opinion that at this point in time, your learning is much better supported by developing a conceptual understanding of research methods rather than just learning calculation by rote. No doubt at some point when we get into statistical procedures, understanding how they are calculated and going through that process manually, Charlie's hitting my chair, is really useful. That's for down the track. For now, don't worry about calculating. I'm going to be asking you mainly conceptual questions, but there might be conceptual questions about some data, for example. So we're not completely ignoring the quantitative. We're just coming at it without the need for a calculator, and therefore, you know, quite a bit less stress, I think, and worry associated with the exam. So I hope that answers your questions and gives you a little bit more info about the research methods exam. Again, like I've said in previous live streams, you really, Charlie, no, we're not eating cords. Good God, dog. No, and I'm without my little bickies for Charlie at the moment, so I'm really limited in terms of alternative reinforcements, but reinforcements I can provide for an alternative behavior. So this is just pushing it uphill I think, for the rest of this stream, so to speak. Isn't that right? Do I even have a toy for you? All your toys are in the outside room. See, here we go. The quizzes attached to the research methods modules are your best indicator of what's going to be in the exam, and there are likely to be some questions that are almost repeated in the exam, so I recommend checking that out. I understand there is some issue with the Module 7 quiz. I can see it, but appears no one else can. I don't know what the issue is. I will, where are we, 2 o'clock. After this stream, go and have another look at it, and if it's still an issue, I'll just delete it and rebuild it from the ground up, and it would be ready later on this afternoon. Hi, Sava. Oh, hang on, I've skipped Thomas. So let's answer Thomas's question. Thanks for asking that question, Thomas. We're wondering if on the exams will be questions regarding the experiments described during the lectures, and if the questions will ask the details of these experiments. Yeah, I reckon there might be. So if there was an experiment that was important enough to, no, do not eat electrical cords. No. Come away from there. Come on. There might be questions about, well, really anything that was presented in lectures. The experiments that are typically presented in lectures at first year psychology are really cornerstone experiments in the field in which they're being presented, whether it's neuroscience, sensation and perception, or learning and cognition. How do you keep getting that cord? What is this supernatural cord attracting power that you have? Come to me so that we can distract you. Yes, be distracted. Say hello to all those people out there. Do not show me on the ear. Good Lord. So, of course, Thomas, this is one of those how long is a piece of string questions. All right. So I would suggest that you want to know the broad brushstrokes from the experiment. So what were the main findings? And particularly if it's an experiment along the lines of something like Roediger and McDermott, where it was also fleshed out in tutorial classes, that's a good indicator with so much time devoted to something that it's really going to be it's going to be probably on the exam. What do you reckon, Charlie? Yes, you're very restless, aren't you? No, no eating me. Don't eat yourself. Don't eat anything. Oh, you're in a mood. You're the Diablo. So, Thomas, I wouldn't get carried away in terms of learning the fine details. I just try to understand the broad brushstrokes, the main findings, and that's as much as I would worry. Of course, considering that you have, oh my God, Charlie, what are you doing? Oh my God, girl. All right, this isn't working. We're having a brief pause. We're having technical difficulties associated with this fella here. Let me just put him outside and I will be right back. All right, Charlie, come on, dearie me. Oh, come on, fatty. Oh, God help me. Okay, so much better. All right, so yeah, don't get hung up on the details. You've got way too much content to learn every fine detail. Remember the important thing, or the important things about the experiments. Seva, so thank you for your question. I hope that answered your question, Thomas. Seva, thank you for your question. whether there are more study resources for the exam. At this point in time, we've provided everything that we're going to in terms of practice questions. So Jason's given you 30. I've given you probably around 60 questions, I think, across the modules. Meredith has given around 30, and they're, remember, exclusively available on Peerwise. And really, Peerwise is what you can use, Sava, to work with your colleagues, your student colleagues on the course, to develop additional study resources to support you as you move towards the exam. So if you haven't already logged into Peerwise, then I recommend doing so really quickly and taking advantage of not only Meredith's questions that are there, but all of the questions that are starting to pop up. And it's a really great way to learn by generating your own questions and testing and rating those along with your friends and colleagues. And it's a great tool. And as I think I shared in an announcement, a link to that article that was published by Meredith and other colleagues that tested Peerwise in a previous cohort, and they were demonstrating that I think the mean increased exam performance that was associated with using Peerwise was about 5%, something like that. So use it. It's a great tool, but it depends. The benefit for you depends on your actual engagement with it and getting in there and making some questions and collaborating. So you've got to be in it to get that benefit out, so to speak. It's an active way to learn and consolidate that information. Hi, Ivy, how are you? Hi, Cheryl. You are very welcome. Always happy to live stream. I think it's a really good way to interact with so many people at once. Obviously, it's difficult for people to all be in the same space, but we can be in the same virtual space at the same time. How many questions? There are 30 questions from each section, so there's 120 questions on the exam altogether. So you, I suppose, should think that the exam is 3 hours long you've got, and 15 minutes reading time. I would be very surprised if people actually take 3 hours to complete the exam. I think, you know, if you really know your stuff, you could probably even do it really very, very quickly. I was known to finish exams in about 10 or 15 minutes, and I'm sure there's people out there that will be doing exactly the same thing. Oh my God, girl, how do we access Peerwise? Oh my God, trolling. However, just for the sake of answering the emails I've received in the last couple of days around this, please refer to my previous announcements on how to access Peerwise. Yes. Oh, and I've received a couple of emails about a third assignment. There is no third assignment for Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1. I don't know where that rumor has started, but there's no third assignment. It's just the exam from here on out. Hi, Ivy. You can take a bilingual dictionary into the exam, should you need one. So Cheryl, to come back to your question in a roundabout way, think about that 3 hours, think about dividing it up roughly into quarters, or maybe not even quarters, maybe think about, you know, well, I mean, if you factor in, I suppose, your review time as well, you want to split it into quarters, 4 sections, 30 questions each. Hi, Luke. What happens if you fail this exam? Life will go on, for starters. There will not be opportunities to retake it However, with the exception where there has been a physical health or mental health or some extenuating circumstance that's impacted upon your ability to sit the exam, then you may be offered a special exam at a later date with special consideration. However, they're offered in exceptional circumstances. So the other thing to remember here, so here's a technicality. You can fail this exam and still pass the Mind, Brain and Behavior 1 subject. So you don't need to achieve a passing grade for each individual assessment. You just need to receive a passing grade at an aggregate level across all of the assessments. On average, you need that 50% or more. So in theory, if you got in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s for your assignments, then you could, of course, potentially, and obviously this would vary according to the maths and your individual circumstances, but you could potentially fail the exam and still pass the course. Depends how much you fail by, of course. However, I should point out that it's very rare that people actually fail this course. Subject, I should say. Hope that helps, Luke. If, okay, bear with me while I work this split screen weirdness. Okay, so we've still got a couple of weeks until the exam, but of course you've got more than one exam, right? So you could possibly be feeling the pinch right about now, certainly feeling a little bit pressured if you haven't begun to lay out your study plan. If you haven't started to lay out your study plan across your calendar, I'd really recommend that you do that as soon as possible. That would be good to get you through to the exam without having to cram the night before. But just remember, if you do find yourself being really pressed for time, do not try to take everything in. It just will not happen. It doesn't matter how smart you are, you won't be able to take anything in. If you are pressured for time, you're just going to have to go about it sensibly and think about feasibility. What can you do feasibly with the time that you have available? Oh, need sip of coffee. Woo, that is good espresso. Oh, that's good. So I've said this before many times, but I'll say it again, particularly if you're pressured for time, you want to think about the main points from each lecture. Try and understand, or at least remember, what the 2 or 3 main points from each lecture were. If you can remember those, then they are likely to be examined. There's going to be roughly 2 or 3 questions coming from each lecture. So sticking with the main points is a good way to do it. So, hi, Nick. Thanks for your question. Do most people usually pass since it's MC? Yeah, right. So that's a really good point, Nick. Thanks for pointing that out. It's true. So according to probability, we would expect that having no knowledge of the subject content, a completely naive person would be able to come in, sit down and score about 25% on the exam just by chance. There's 4 questions. So the probability of getting any of those questions right on any given answer is 25%. So I would expect people to score you know, higher than that, certainly. Hi, Joe. You said 4 sections. Is that neuroscience, sensation, perception, learning, cognition, and research methods? Yes, it is. That is right. So they are the 4 sections, 30 questions from each of those. And hello, person with symbols that I am sorry, I'm not educated enough to read. I thank you, green icon person, for your question. Yes, there's 120 questions in total, 30 from each of those 4 components of the course. The exam is 3 hours long. Do you have it? So this is a great question, Cheryl. Thank you very much for your question. Do we have any study tips for people who tend to procrastinate or have a hard time focusing? Yeah, that is a really common experience. And I think that is an excellent question. There are a range of apps that leverage evidence-based techniques that you could use to support you with your work here. Look for anything around what's called the Pomodoro technique. So it's another word for tomato. Everybody loves tomatoes, right? Essentially, the idea is that you're not going to sit down and try and have a 2-hour study session straight away. You're going to break it up. I think it's a good opportunity to use some of the techniques that you've learned from Meredith this year as well around operant conditioning, classical conditioning and whatnot. And I would start by thinking about, I suppose, the degree of difficulty that you have with procrastination, and focusing, and start with a really brief period of time. Think about 5 minutes. See if you can study for 5 minutes. Set your phone timer or get one of those Pomodoro technique apps, and they will help you with some time scheduling. Start brief, reward yourself for good progress, and don't get down on yourself when you find yourself getting distracted, but stop and analyze the situation and look at what the maintaining conditions are that might be giving rise to and maintaining that distraction. So we talked recently about sleep hygiene, didn't we, when we were talking about mental health and well-being and weathering the stress and pressure of exam preparation. And we talked about taking things out of your bedroom that are not conducive to good sleep. So getting the TV out of there, getting the PlayStation out of there. So no up at night watching The Bold and the Beautiful. No playing Battlefield or whatever it is that you cool kids are playing these days. And really setting up the environment very intelligently so that it sets the scene for success. In previous talks around training Charlie, for example, I talked about this idea of setting the training environment up to eliminate possibilities for failure and maximize possibilities for success. What just happened there with Charlie at the start of the stream was the exact opposite of that. I had set up, just because I've been pressed for time and having online meeting after online meeting after online meeting, and only just made it to the stream in time. I didn't have time to set up Charlie with a good situation to be here for the stream. That was a situation that was just destined for failure. I had no treats. I didn't have his bed. I didn't have a toy for him, so he was distracted. The only interesting thing in his vicinity was the electrical cords that are down under my desk. You know, that was no good. So think about your environment. And God, the environment these days is, of course, not only physical, but it's virtual. It's what's going on in our electronic environment. And we need to think about, I suppose, notifications and alerts, and be mindful of things that you find do indeed distract you. So are you prone to checking Facebook incessantly when it's on your phone, for example? This is actually a really interesting discussion I was just having with somebody who you probably all know, Osher Ginsburg, who is the presenter on The Bachelor, and you'd know him from Australian Idol and whatnot previously. So we've done some stuff together before. We're currently writing a TV series together at the moment, and we were talking just the other night about this thing that we'd both done, and that was taking our Facebook and our Twitter and our social media generally off our phones. And Osher's got a friend, Casey Neistat, who is big in YouTube, and he'd recently done some videos around this idea of taking back your concentration and taking back your life away from incessant insurgencies from social media alerts and whatnot. And I think for you guys, that's something you might want to think about. One would be adopting a framework like the Pomodoro technique, and another one would be getting rid of electronic distractions and setting up your environment for success. Start small, start brief. Think about 15 minutes, have a little break, reward yourself. Think about another 15 minutes, have a little break, reward yourself. Build up to half an hour at a time. And that's probably not much further than you really want to go. You might want to go for half an hour and a 5-minute break, and half an hour and a 5-minute break. And, you know, I think that's probably, if you're having difficulty, maybe a good goal to aim for at the end of the 2 weeks to build upon getting up to that point. Try meditation, yo, says Billy. Yes, this is true. Meditation can certainly help. Mindfulness practice can help. All very complementary and challenging in terms of directing attention, but a very good skill to learn. You're very welcome, Christopher. That's good, Roy. I'm glad you found the Pomodoro technique. It is helpful as a swag of evidence underpinning its effectiveness. Yeah. So I feel like somebody just sent me an email about an exam. Huh, that's an interesting question. I've looked in the exam rules and couldn't find anything about earplugs. Are we okay to bring earplugs into the exam? I'm going to say the honest answer, which is I don't know. I presume it would be fine. I suggest bringing your earplugs along, and just checking with the exam invigilators and seeing what they say. Just search for a link here. So I mentioned before that Osher has done some stuff with us before. You might be interested to see it. So if you haven't already seen the School of Psychology YouTube channel, I'm going to link you to it right now, and you'll be able to find a video from last year that was all about mental illness stigma, and there was a panel of people with myself, Michelle Blanchard is the Deputy CEO of Sane Australia, Alan Woodward, who's from Lifeline, and who else? We had Elizabeth Crowther, who's the CEO of Wellways. These are all mental health associations, and also OSHA, speaking about, so why the hell was I talking about OSHA, you might be wondering. The reason that we are doing stuff with OSHA is because he's the ambassador for the school now, and it's because OSHA is so very passionate about experience of mental illness and mental health issues, and has recently written a book about his own experience of trauma and mental health issues that he's experienced coming out of trauma, psychosis, anxiety, and so forth. Excuse me. And mental illness stigma. And he talks a lot about how his experience of stigma prevented him from taking his medication, for example, that would have been helpful for him to take when he was in a really difficult place and having a tough time. So if you haven't already read OSHA's book, I highly recommend checking his book out, and certainly going along to the school YouTube channel and cycle back to October last year, and you'll find the very first Psych Talks event, and that was my one on mental illness stigma. So hi, Brendan, glad you are tuning in. Thanks for joining us. So everyone, how are we going with, we've talked about REP. We know the deadline's this Friday. There may be some people with other questions around the hurdle requirements for the subject. And of course, there's the attendance hurdle requirement. So if you did fall short of the 80% hurdle requirement, which is attending, so you could only miss 2. So we had 11 tutorials. So you needed to attend 9 or more tutorials during the semester. If you fell short from that, Caitlin will be in contact with you this week with the details of a writing makeup task that you will need to complete to fulfill the attendance hurdle requirement. The size of the task will be matched to the number of tutorials that were missed. So people, for example, that missed all of the tutorials, and there won't be many people in that case, but they will need to do a more substantial piece of work than somebody that just missed an additional tutorial, for example. What else? Assignments. So everybody who didn't submit an assignment has already been contacted by email more than once. But let me extend an additional invitation here. If you have not submitted either assignment 1 or assignment 2, then you should email me. In fact, you must email me as soon as possible so that we can discuss your options. We will need to explore what's happened and where we can go from here. As things stand, a student cannot pass the course without having submitted each one of the assessments. So that's submitting assignment 2, and sitting the exam. And there may be solutions, but it requires that you get back to me and we work that out together. Hi, Michael, thanks for your question. So great one, great question. Is tutorial material examinable in the exam? Yeah, it sure is. So I would suggest that you, again, with tutorials, just think about the broad brushstrokes with the content, particularly where there was something, again, like Roediger and McDermott and the false memory experiments. we certainly would pay attention to that. It got fleshed out so well in Tutes and married the content in the lecture series. So yeah, absolutely. And of course, with research methods, yeah, definitely that is going to be examinable as well. The G4E program, no, that is not examinable. So great question. I'm glad you highlighted that. G4E is not examinable. We were just trialing that as a well-being initiative, and we are evaluating that, and based on Afnan, yes, you can come back. This video will be here at the same link. It'll be recorded and published via the same link after the stream finishes. We'll retain some of G4E, I think, but not the entire thing. So I think the evaluation is sort of pointing to bits that were useful and bits that weren't so useful. And I'll let you in on a little secret. First year psychology next year is going to be completely different to first year psychology this year. Well, not completely different, but very, very different in the way in which the subjects are delivered, in the way in which the tutorials are delivered, in the way in which the lectures are delivered. We have got a pile of work to do before next year, but things are changing big time. You know, student well-being and connectedness and feeling part of the group and supporting mental health is all part of our design. And so there will be elements from G4E that are retained and embedded in the course. Do you have access to the tutorial slides at all? Yep, they're all on the LMS. I am pretty sure they should be, yeah. So there is there's a main menu item there, tutorial classes on the LMS page, and you can find all of the content there. All right, so we've done assignments, we've talked about the exams. So for the first time this year, Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1 is so big in terms of the number of students enrolled that they couldn't fit us all in the one place. So we're actually splitting the exam in terms of who's going where. Half of the people will be at one venue, half of the people will be at another venue. I'm going to be at one venue, and I'll be there for question time and getting you all, reading time, and I'll be there to answer any questions apart from the exam answers. Won't be giving you those, and get you all settled in and comfy for the exam. And maybe I'll bring Charlie. Charlie would be good to, what do you think? Should we bring Charlie and help get you settled into the exam? And then Caitlin, the principal tutor, will, okay, Phoebe, we'll bring Charlie. Caitlin, the principal tutor, will be at the, okay, Charlie it is then. Caitlin will be at the other exam. So between the two of us, we will have you all covered. Phoebe, the pass rate for the exam is really high. It's very rare that people do not pass the exam. I would be talking, about just a couple of percent, maybe not even that much. And again, you just need to, I don't think you're going to fail the exam. I think, well, that, statistically, of course, it'll be unlikely to fail the exam. I think you'll be doing just fine. There's a lot of content to remember. Just remember to start with those obvious things and work from there. So, I've just got another another email about, oh, okay, Charlie is very cute. Thank you very much. Yes, Charlie is very cute. That he is. So thank you, Gia, for your message. I've just been alerted to the fact that when you look in your student portal at your recent announcements, there is an announcement from Caitlin that is just alluding to the fact that she will be sending out those attendance hurdle makeup tasks. But when you view it in its abbreviated form, thanks to the LMS and all of its wizardry, it says additional hurdle assessment submission, 5+ absences due. It just looks a little bit weird. It's just an announcement. You can just ignore it. That is not a thing. As far as I'm aware. No, it's just an announcement. You can just ignore that. Okay, so will there be an exam question on Charlie? No, unfortunately, there won't be an exam question on Charlie. But, you might have just given me an idea, Spooky Shadow. I wonder if we do, yeah, let's do it. Let's do Charlie's textbook quiz competition. So how about we get in our next live stream, we'll have Charlie join us. We'll have a little quiz. Maybe we'll have some sort of quiz, and I will give away a copy of one of the first year psych textbooks. And when you come and collect it from my office at uni, you can meet Charlie. We'll do some of that. Charlie can present the textbook to the winning person of the Charlie quiz. Yeah, extra questions on Charlie as for bonus points. That's right. Hi, Thomas. Thanks for your question. If you provided a medical certificate for a third of the absent tutorials, do you still need the additional assessment? If there were 3 absent tutorials and that medical certificate was 1/3 of those, meaning 1 tutorial, then you would be fine. So you can use a medical certificate to account for 1 tutorial absence during semester. If there's additional absences, then you'll need to do the makeup work. And so, I mean, on the face of things, it sounds stingy. I get that, right? But it's deeper than that. It's about ensuring that people who graduate from the subject actually get the knowledge and the skills and the value that the subject gives. So it's just, the makeup writing tasks aren't arbitrary, by the way. They're targeted at the topics you missed in the tutorials. So there's a rhyme and a reason to it. So you can use a medical certificate to excuse a single absence. Okay, so where are we at? How are we going? I think we've talked about everything now. We've established we're going to do some sort of Charlie quiz and giveaway, and Charlie will hand out the textbook to the winner. What else? I think that's probably all I had to talk about. If there's any lingering questions, please feel free to put them up on the question board now. Oh, good one, Michael. Okay, so the answers need to be recorded in pen or pencil. I would suggest you want to do it in pencil because you will more than likely need to erase your answer and change your answer at some point. Also, The way this will work is that you'll have a question booklet and then you'll have an answer sheet, and the answer sheet will just be rows of little ovals that you will fill in that correspond to A, B, C, or D for each question. So there's 4 options for each question. And that's scanned by a computer. This computer scans it twice to make sure that we have an accurate mark that's generated from the exam, and it will read it best if you use a 2B pencil. So use a 2B pencil, and that will be good. Roy, how many more live streams will I do? Let's have a look here at my calendar. I'm very busy, important doctor now. But you guys are my priority. You are obviously a big part of my work is coordinating this very complex subject with lots and lots of lectures and tutorial classes and nearly 42 tutors working on the, in fact, in terms of all the staff that I look after on this this subject, believe it or not, behind the scenes, there's about 50 people working on Mind, Brain, and Behavior 1. It's no small task. So where are we? Mind, Brain, Behavior 1 exam. Okay, so it's then, we've still got a couple of weeks until that, so we'll do at least 2 more live streams. Can I hear thunder? 2 more live streams before the exam. So let me have a look here. I reckon we might. Oh, it's a public holiday next week. Gross. I don't care about public holidays. Do you guys care about public holidays? Maybe I'll go for next Monday, and maybe the Monday after, and then maybe the night before the exam. Maybe the night before the exam, I'll come on with Charlie, and he can soothe all your woes and all your worries. So maybe we've got 3 live streams left in us, I reckon. I'd really like maybe next week's live stream, or the last, or not the night before the exam, but the week after, maybe on the 17th, to have a research methods focused live stream. So I know people have got lots of general questions about the exam and about the course, but I'd really like to have that lecturer consultation session around research methods. So maybe we'll plan to bring along our research methods questions for that. You've got your lecturer for research methods as a captive audience in these live streams, so you might as well use me while you've got me. I'm not joking about seeing Charlie before the exam. We'll absolutely do that. We will do that the night before the exam. Charlie will be happy to oblige, I am sure. Spooky Shadow, no calculator needed for the exam. All right, so I'm putting in my diary right now a Mind, Brain, Behavior 1 live stream for Monday. Oh my God. What are my meetings that day? Well, I'll work out the time and I'll announce that, but we'll have one on Monday the 10th. We'll have one on Monday the 17th. And we will have one on Wednesday the 19th, the evening of the Charlie live stream. Charlie Soothes Your Soul live stream. All right, done. In the calendar, happening. I probably, oh, yes, okay. So I've missed your question about Meredith. How do you identify them on PWise? That's a very good question. I thought that they would have been marked as such. Were they obvious because they were the first questions that I was looking at? I will get my PhD student / RA / slave, Kelton, to go and have a look for me, and we will work it out. If they are not clearly identified as Meredith's questions already, it shall be so. It's a bit of a tongue twister. Very shortly. We'll get onto that, Roy. Who can we contact between live streams about course content questions that we might have? So I'll certainly be checking the research methods section. The course lecturers are going to pay more attention now that we're just before the oh God help me, exam. It's really that time of afternoon, isn't it? 3 o'clock. I need another coffee. The lecturers will be checking the discussion board. So I suggest if you've got any questions about content, post that question on the discussion board. Your colleagues can collaborate, but the lecturers will also chime in. It's not a stupid question at all, Jess. I said a little bit earlier on that G4E is not examinable. So the tutorials, generally the content-related tutorials, so certainly, think super tasters, receptive fields, research methods, false memories, classical operant conditioning, and so forth, they're all certainly examinable. Groups for Education is not. That was just more intended to help you out. Good old super tasters. Back in the day, I was doing Caitlin's job as principal tutor when I was doing my PhD. And I'd always know that it was moving into autumn time when I would be out shopping for, 4,000 cotton buds and 4 liters of lemon juice and, a liter of blue food dye and whatnot. Good old super tasters. Such a great tutorial, actually. I think it's a great way to get us to think hierarchically about information processing and cognition. That is an excellent idea, Cheryl. Well done. Yeah, that is a good way to do it, to identify those questions that were all posted on the same date. So that was myself and Kelton, my PhD student, getting those up in there. All on the same day, early in May. Well done. Very good. Look at that, the power of the hive mind. So I am going to share with you, just for shits and giggles, what I've been listening to today. So I've got quite eclectic musical taste, and I like to listen to music when I work, particularly when I'm writing or doing research work, and days where I've had an hour or two sort of sporadically throughout the day where I've been able to do some of that. it's nice to listen to some music. I listen to all sorts of stuff, but this is what I've been listening to today. This is a set, an electronic dance music DJ set, but nothing too hard, quite really enjoyable, by Damien Lazarus at a dance festival in Mexico, I think it was, or somewhere down in Southern California or something like that, earlier on this year. Pretty nice, recursive, so not a lot of vocal. That's the stuff I generally like to listen to. I find it easier to write to things that aren't really attention grabbing, but just sort of ebb and flow in the background. Simon Cropper and I have actually got some quite similar tastes in electronic music, but that's a good set. That one. Oh, now there was another one that I ended up getting onto before. Where are we here? Let me go back to it, and it was actually oh, there it goes. This is Christian Nan, who played Hodor in Game of Thrones, and he turns out to be a DJ. Who would have known? And so there you go. There's another set for you that you can listen to while you're studying. So I think that's it. Probably all we need to cover right now. I'll send out some announcements about those upcoming live streams, but I think we're good for now. So thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Good luck with your study and getting your REP finished as much as you would like to. And thanks for tuning in. I always appreciate it when you guys tune in and watch the stream live. Makes it all worthwhile. So have a good one, and thanks for all you two, and I'll speak to you all soon. Okay, bye now.